I can get down, but like I also when I see my reflection, I'm like, oh, you look ridiculous. What are you doing? Stop this lady. We're trying to be a business here. Uh, but
I
to
can put it.
start this
I
off
can put it down
for now, you can bring it
for
back
now.
up once we get to spicier topics. There are going to be plenty of them.
Excellent. Oh,
That's
I'm
why I brought a
sure.
second.
We might get bananaed. I actually got a whole bag of Dum Dums today because I was like, first of all, I'm gonna need these. Second of all, we get very few trick or treaters at our house, but if we do, I'm like, okay, I'll give out suckers, and then whatever I have left over are my fun suckers.
I'll give you a fun sucker.
I bet you will.
Hot. uh,
Don't play with me, Lizzie. I'm a flirt.
I know. The problem is like I have a very high femme blush vibes going on, and I will panic at the drop of anyone flirting with me, and I can see see my face is gonna be the same color up here. Is
I think it would be
anyway.
better as this.
Stop it. The whole
All
red
right.
filter will have nothing on the color of my face. I will be tomato. Be the tomato. Feel the tomato.
The
Uh,
seasonal. No, I did not know there were seasonal Dum Dums. I'll have to
oh
look
yeah,
that up.
I've got the Halloween seasonal ones. I've
Really?
got uh, they have apple pie one. I've got a pumpkin spice dum dum in that bag. Like I bought the big chunker bag because it was like
Ooh,
$3. It was worth it. It was worth it for the money.
nice.
Uh, but to everyone who has joined us in the comments, oh, and so where did you get your pendant before I explain how I got mine?
At a Ren fair. So I the Kansas City Ren Fair, actually, not the fair that I'm a part of. I just was attending with a group of friends, and one of my friends saw me like checking this out hardcore, and then she picked it up for me for Christmas. So that was adorable. It's oh, I know what y'all want to see. It's a piece of pottery that's been made into a pendant.
This is the single best live I've done in a long time.
Show us yours,
Uh,
Lizzie.
as for mine, this is God. So this is Cthulhu's Eye. I
Oh,
had
I
it
like
custom
it.
made for me because I wrote about a warlock whose patron is Cthulhu, and uh, in it, she's described to having a magic focus, which is his putrid eye surrounded by tentacles and spikes. And
So
so,
it's like
a
that.
yeah, a clay artist made it for me. And like,
I
I
love
wrote the
that.
book prior to I knowing I was going to publish it, and then I had this made. And so when my character artist Kate was like, "Hey, do you have like an idea what the pendant looks like?" I was like, "I have an exact replica. This is what it looks like." I sent her
That's
plenty of pictures,
amazing.
and it's really fun. And like in certain lights, it's more yellow than it is blue, or it's more green than it is yellow. So, uh, but going back to introductions, it is an eye. It's his eye. Introduction. So I will introduce myself and then my lovely guest, and we will start with the author interview for the night. Hello, my name is Lizzie Strong. I am a monster romance author. I write spooky, scary monsters that have really cute and cuddly romances. My current work, The Cato's Waitress, is out in KU as of the moment, as well as in ebook and paperback. It's a fun little monster novella, so if you like paws, claws, biting, and grumpy cat daddies, you'll like that one. The book the pendant is from is Hauntings and Company, which comes out on Halloween. It is a boss assistant. It is a tentacle monster, and there are lots of wiggly boys everywhere throughout the book. You can find all of my stuff on Amazon. You can also find it at lizziestrongauthor.com. I do these author interview lives about twice a week, once on Tuesday, aka today, and then usually on Thursday/Saturday, depending on people's schedules. Usually 8 p.m. They are always announced in my pre-filet underneath my face, and you can check out who I'm interviewing. There is, if anyone is an author in the comments, I do have a author interview interest form if you would like to be interviewed. I also have an ARC reader interest form if you would like to read books for free at the small cost of telling me how much I made you cry. So with that, I would like to pass it off to my lovely guest. Will you please introduce yourself, what you're writing, where they can find it, and anywhere else they can find your pretty face?
Of course. Thank you, Lizzie. I'm Sabrina Blackburry. I just had my debut print release, Dirty Lying Fairies, which you can get at any bookstore or online. I started out as a Wattpad writer, so actually if you look for me on Wattpad, also under the name Sabrina Blackburry, you can find a bunch of my free first draft works. So there's a lot more content out there. This is the first in a 3-book series, so I'm actually going to have the second book come out next year, and then the third book in 2024. I think that covers it.
Do you have a website or anywhere else anyone can find your pretty face?
I do have a website. I also have a Sabrina Blackburry at wixsite.com. And I have an Instagram and a Twitter, but I'm not as active on those as I am here on TikTok. You will primarily find me on Wattpad and TikTok.
Fair. Very fair point. As much as I'm like, oh yeah, I use Instagram and Twitter, I use those once a day to make sure that I'm posting to the algorithm gods and mean like, here, have something, don't forget about me. But mostly you're going to see my face here on TikTok. And of course, all of these interviews will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you are an ADHD monster like myself and you've got squirrel brain and you can't sit through the whole thing and you want to be able to like come back and forth, they will be uploaded to Lizzie Strong Author on YouTube. My first one with Kahula is up there as of right now. And if you are an author and interested in doing this, you can kind of see what it's going to look like. Hello, Brooke. When you get one yourself. With all of the logistics out of the way, so the first thing that pretty much everyone has wanted to know about is you're a Wattpad author, obviously.
Yeah.
What is that like? What goes into that?
So Wattpad, I started writing on Wattpad because as soon as I heard about it, I thought, oh, that sounds like a great way to get over showing strangers what I wrote, because it's very hard. It's a very hard step for a writer, to get over yourself and be like, well, here it is. Take the good and the bad and whatever you have to say about it. So I thought, okay, I'll do that with Wattpad. And I started writing on there. Dirty Lying Fairies was actually my first thing I ever wrote on Wattpad. So that's gone on a long Wattpad journey. I've been on Wattpad for over 6 years now, and I think 6. It's been a while, and it's very fun. It's very fun to have an audience that is there to comment line by line and interact with you and interact with each other and yell at your characters or whatever else that they want to say about it. It really gives me a lot of insight into like, oh, you like that character. Oh, you don't like that character, which most of the time is like, good, you're not supposed to like that character. I really like that, like just being so connected to readers. Also on Wattpad, people really understand that you have first drafts. Some people put finished drafts up there. That's fine. I don't have the attention span to write a whole thing and then edit a whole thing and then put it on Wattpad. I just write directly on Wattpad. But people use it for all kinds of things. So for me, that's what's working. And actually, Wattpad does have a paid feature now. It came out a few years ago, and I was invited to the beta program of their the paid stories program. So Dirty Lying Fairies has been in paid stories since its conception. So Wattpad's had their nails in it since 2017, I think, is when it started. So they've had it a while, and then now they've published it under their new imprint. This is the first year that they're printing adult books. Actually, they had done YA the first couple of years of their imprint. Now they're branching out into adult as well. So I'm part of the first year of that. So I feel like Dirty Line Fairies has been solidly Wattpad's. It's not mine anymore. It's
Right, it's
they
their
keep
golden child.
I was like, I'm going to make a story, put it on there and be done with it. And then they're like, hey, have you heard what the paid stories program is about? And I was like, no. So then they took it for that. And then they're like, hey, do you want to get this published? And I was like, okay. So for a throwaway story, it's doing very well.
Right, but it's always the surprising thing. Like for
Right.
example, so Night and Mage was the big first novel that I put out in August. It's my sapphic romance. It's enemies to lovers. Like it's the thing I was like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna go for this. As a joke, I wrote The Cato's Waitress as a joke because Rowan kept being like, "You should totally write Cat Daddy. Get Cat Daddy out there. I want to read about Cat Daddy." And every one of my beta readers was like, "I need this dad bod cat. I need to read his story." I was like, "Okay, fine. It'll be funny. A couple people will read this novella. It'll be fine." I have made so much more bank on The Cato's Waitress than I have at all. It was meant to just be funny and something that like some people would find enjoyable. And then I wrote about spines on genitalia where spines should not be, and all of a sudden now everyone's like, Cato, we want Cat Daddy, and I was like, oh my god, why? Why is that the one you guys picked? But I also really really like the story. It was really fun, and I think that's going to be my new style. Is just whatever seems ridiculous to me at the point. If it makes me giggle for 30 seconds, it's getting written down.
Yeah, I love those. I love getting feeling like it's not taking the writing too seriously. It's writing a serious story, but it's not taking the content too seriously.
Precisely. If it's not fun, I'm not going to enjoy making it. So why would I put myself through pain and toil anyway, right? So
Mm-hmm.
speaking of pain and toil, what are some things you had to go through with the publishing process with like Wattpad and their print that maybe you haven't seen other people talk about? Because we've seen indies talk about KDP process, Ingram process, and like the trad publishing. But what's it like with Wattpad?
So, they have an imprint just like any other trad imprint, but I do have a lot more hands in the pot than maybe a normal. I don't know. I don't know what everyone else's process is like. But
Mhm.
Wattpad said, hey, we want to get into publishing. We want to use the data we have of, oh, these stories are being read at a good rate, or these stories have a really good completion rate. If somebody clicks on it, they're likely to complete it. We want to do something with those stories. So they have this imprint, but to just start an imprint out of nothing is hard, even for a big
Yeah.
company like that. So it's actually a partnership that they have. Their imprint is the sales team, marketing team, and distribution is through Macmillan.
Mm.
So I'll have situations where we're like, okay, this needs to get worked out. Something small like, are we going to keep the title? Which they did. Hallelujah. I love the title Dirty Lying Bears, but it was still a question because in trad, that's up in the air. So there would have been
Right.
a meeting. And I would have been involved, and Wattpad would have been involved, but also Macmillan's sales team would have been involved. Like, I feel like there was
Right.
a lot more people had to be involved at every single step, I think, maybe than
Mhm.
somebody who just was in a small press, which was it better or worse? I don't know. It was what it was. That's where we're at. So,
So then I guess this easier question is, where did dirty lying fairies come from? Like in your brain space.
oh my gosh, it was a dare on the internet.
Yeah,
Like,
I
so
love
it
that.
was, the place I found out about Wattpad is the same place I got the idea for DLF. I was on the NaNoWriMo forums. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to write something. Nano's coming up in a couple of months. I don't know what I'm going to write. So I found two things. One, I found out Wattpad and what it was, and I was like, okay, neat. Two, there was one of those threads like, oh, put what you normally write, and the person below you will give you like a thing you don't usually write, like a challenge, like challenge yourself. And I put like, oh, I always write high fantasy. I've never not written high fantasy. Like that was all I had ever done. And somebody's like, paranormal romance, urban fantasy, paranormal creatures, or something like that. And I was like, oh,
Right.
well, it's within fantasy. I can do that. But I hadn't really thought about how you shove fantasy into the modern world. So I had to figure that out. And the easiest way would be to go with a creature that I already like, which is I like fairies.
Right.
So that was, other than that, I guess I just put elements of things I like in there. I like fated mates. I like one bed. I like, I really like a sense of paranormal things that are like they live around you and you just cannot see them. And
Hmm.
so the first, like, maybe third of the book has a lot of that in there. Um, so I don't know. I guess I just did whatever I felt like. I didn't really plot it out. I just did stuff until it was done. I'm usually more of a
I like that.
plotter. I certainly plot
Hmm.
better now, but that one was a little bit. And you know, the
Right. Just
funny thing is, I like failed that nano almost immediately. I was like, this isn't gonna work. But it's okay because it made me start the story and then I was like, it's okay. I will do, I think I did roughly like maybe a chapter a week, which online serial stories like Wattpad and other sites similar to it, you probably your chapters 2 to 3,000 words is good. So that's a very
hmm.
manageable number to do every week while working full time and everything else I had going on in my life. So yeah, I probably did about a chapter a week, and I've kept up on trying to keep to that schedule. Online serialized sites, Wattpad, Radish, Ingot, Tapas. Um, Having a regular schedule is like the most important thing. That's how you get and maintain readers, because if they know that you will regularly put that out, they trust you a little more. Like, okay, is it going to be like you post 3 chapters one week and then 6 months later the next chapter comes out? So regularity is big.
Is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so for anyone who doesn't know, what is the plot of Dirty Lang Fairies?
Dirty Line Fairies, the beginning of the story follows Thea. Thea is our main character. She's maybe a little bit more introverted, somebody with more interest in books and museums than going to a party. However, she finds herself at one. Her best friend Candace is the fashionista extrovert that takes her to this gala, basically to be her DD. But Thea is just kind of wandering around and encounters Devin, our love interest. So the story really starts in chapter 1 when she's at this party and she is accidentally mistaken as who should have been the target of the annual changeling. A changeling in my story would be an adult. They don't steal babies anymore. They pick an adult who is usually at the edge of society. They don't have family. They don't have a lot of friends, a lot of connections. They would be less missed if they were turned into a fairy or brought over into the fairy side of things. So Thea is mistargeted, and then she's pulled into dealing with everything. She begins to see weird things. She has to kind of uncover like what are the fae. She gets kind of pulled into this situation. There's a whole lot of fate involved and unexpected things that came of it, that maybe this was always meant to happen. It just happens to have happened to her. And then she does have a mystery to solve. So really, that first chunk where you're jumping into it, it's Thea figuring out that there are fairies in the world, and now she's going to be one. Um,
Mhm.
so, but it's set in Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, because I that place is where weird stuff should happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It having been to Seattle quite a few times, like every summer for like 6 years when my grandmother lived there. There's something surreal about living in Seattle. I mean, that's got to be why Stephanie Myers chose Washington for Forks, right? It has to be,
It's
amongst other things. But hi, Ashley. It's got to be the reason. So then, what are some other reasons you chose the plot the way that you did? Obviously, you did on the Dare. You got the idea of the genre, and then what gave you the idea of this changeling aspect for an adult?
well, I like the idea of changelings. I hate the idea of stolen babies. If you look
Uh-huh.
historically at what a changeling was, that lore popped up from children that were very other. Um, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit neurospicy. If you
Yep.
were ADHD, if you were autistic, if you were any kind of other, historically, you may have been called a changeling. Oh, there's
Hey.
something, not right with that baby. Is peasant, 13th century peasant mindset. But um,
Fair.
And those were the things that the story would have been like, oh, that's not a human child. And
Right.
as bad as the origin of that was, I was like, I love changelings. How about not babies? Because I don't like the history behind why we have that lore in
Mhm.
the first place. Um, and what would be the least impactful? Because really, a fairy, something, a being of nature and magic, should want to be the least impactful on the population as possible. Doing it this way, um, choosing people who could possibly have a better life or would not be missed at all if they were chosen, to maybe trick into the world of the fairies, would be much better off than, impacting people who are going to be missed, people that will cause searches and questions to arise,
Mhm.
pick somebody at least who has reached adulthood and I don't know. They're supposed to be carefully choosing every year somebody. Um, Thea was not supposed to be the candidate, so she is now.
So that kind of brings up the canon question. Do you have plans for the person who was supposed to be chosen?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's dealt with as well. In fact, I don't want to really, I don't want to give anything away, but yes,
Hmm.
things do in the book happen to the person who was supposed to be chosen. Um, and their life did in fact work out for the better. They gained a place in the world that is ideal for them. So, uh, yeah, the original idea of who the changeling should be and that it would be better off to choose this kind of a person, it does work out. It would have been the correct answer.
I like that. All right. So, uh, now that we've kind of discussed Dirty Lying Fairies, I've been told there's sequel
Yes.
slash adjacency next book. Tell us a little bit about that one.
So the next book, I wasn't even going to write the next book. I finished Dirty Lying Fairies and I was like, I am done. Good job, me. And everyone starts saying what happens in book two. And I'm like, what do you mean, book two?
What book two?
There is no book two. So I had to kind of make a decision. What I came to was using the same universe, but moving to a different main couple and cast. Because while I love being able to use cameos and like visit the other books, since that book was supposed to be one and done, I would ruin that story if I just made up more stuff for a couple that I was done with. I was
Right.
not going to do that. I wasn't ready to do that. And I had hinted that there are other things in the world, but you only see fairies and Dirty Lying Fairies. Dirty Lying Dragons, I just blew it much bigger. You see wolves, you see dragon shifters, you see vampires, you see that there are a lot more things in the world. It's hinted at in fairies, but there are more, and you see them in Dirty Lying Dragons. So I have chosen a completely new um, main character and a completely new love interest and a few people that go along with that, a new, uh, antagonist, and we deal with all of that. But we still visit Seattle and see most of the cast from Dirty Lying Fairies and kind of where they are in a few years and get them involved. So I think that was very fun. People really like the cameos when we go back and see what happened to their other favorite characters from the other books. So I've really enjoyed getting to revisit those characters that I loved in the first place. But I also really like writing the new book. Like
The new book.
Thea is sweet and a thinker and quieter, but has enough strong will. Danny has a terrible mouth and is a hot mess with very little life direction. And it was a very different character from Thea. Um, but I freaking love her. She's a piece of me. There's a piece of me in that. Or at least a piece of my 20s. Um, and Riker's an asshole. I don't know what else to say about him. Yeah.
Um, so what are you applying differently to this one? Like, obviously, we're not using the changeling story arc here. How do they meet?
By accident, and again, much like book one, a little bit of fate is involved. So it is. I always do fated mates, but I really just love fate in many capacities, and so it is involved as well. You will see from chapter two, you will start saying, "Okay, what's going on? Why did that happen?" And by halfway through the book, you're like, "Oh, that's why that happened," and it is just some more meant to be moments. Danny had no idea who Riker was at all. She actually accidentally teleports herself to the other side of the world and
Whoops.
lands in his hot spring while he's trying to chillax.
Yes, I love that.
Um,
This is gonna be
so they
so
meet
good.
and he's naked. She almost doesn't even notice because like obviously she's alarmed and things are happening and then it's not. But they don't meet in the best way. She like literally just falls into his lap in a hot spring. So it's okay though.
And so, is Danny full dragon or is he human turn into dragon?
Danny's the female main character. Her name
Oh,
is Danica. I know I shouldn't have just said Danny without setting that
no,
up.
you're fine.
She goes by Danny. She is actually a witch, and Riker is a dragon shifter. So he has a human form
Right.
minus the eyes. One thing I have in this universe, if you are any form of supernatural creature, you can see that other supernatural creature's eyes. For instance, like wolf shifters all have yellow eyes. They just all do.
Right.
Riker has silver eyes and she has no idea what to make of that because she's like, I don't know what that is, but that's not a human spectrum of eye color, so I know you're something. And because she's a witch,
This
she's able to
is
see that.
just
Yeah.
absolutely.
And he's so mean. Like he's a teaser. He's like, why don't you figure it out? And he just amuses himself with her guesses and frustration because he's a butt and I love him.
We love it. We love it. Um, so what are some non-common things that you're doing? Obviously, the eyes, since you brought it up. What are some other non-common things you're kind of implementing into your fantasy world?
I know that some things are somewhat toned down for trad publishing. I
Yeah.
originally left, even in human form, I originally had some scales left on Riker's ding dong for her pleasure, ribbed for her. But they were like, that might be a bit much. And I'm like, fine. I will in fact tone this down because this entire series was a throwaway for me. I will in fact tone that down. So that's why I'm really excited to do some kind of a self pub situation in the next couple of years when I can be done with other responsibilities. Because I'm like, I'll make it weird. I will make it weird.
100%. So then
But that's fine. That's fine that they wanted that because the
they
greater
want to make money.
personality is it for me. Yeah.
That's fair. Uh, so what are some creatures, monsters, or beings that if you like, if you had the spoons right now and you could just drop time and just, crank her out, what would you do?
If I could just like poof another story in the series into the
Right.
world,
If you could just like slam your hands on the keyboard and another story be out, what would it be in, or like what would be in it?
it might be a demon. I really like I really like a smooth talker. And I don't think I've covered enough specifically the kind of smooth talker I'm thinking of. I like deal makers and tricksters.
Mm,
And I think I might do like a Dirty Lying Demons at some point. In fact, that might be what I do next. I'm like right now, I just wrapped up book 4 on Wattpad. I have a 3-book deal, probably because 3 books were finished at the time
right.
of that. But since then, I have written Dirty Lying Sirens, and it is currently on Wattpad in its first draft form. So like here's hoping the series does well enough that they're like, hey, but we'll see. And that one was very fun. So we've now gone through 4 different books. We've got fairies, dragons, wolves, and sirens. And now I'm like, what the heck is next?
What's
I could
next?
do vampires, I could do the demon idea. I could do a lot of things. And I'm really on the fence. I don't know. I don't know what I would just poof out. It's a hard
Oh,
question.
we'll poof some stuff out later. um, a crossroads demon, perfect. I also very much enjoy a deal with the devil. Hello, chemist, welcome in. Um, so obviously you like more fantasy creatures and fantasy storylines. What is kind of either a genre or a trope that you don't want to use? And not to like poop on anyone's favorite things, but like as an
Oh, I
author,
will. This is
oh,
the anti third act breakup club. We are anti third act breakup here. It is not welcome in this house.
like it. Uh, does anyone get forgiven for that trope if they get back together in the same third act?
Maybe. I'm
Maybe.
I'm such an easy reader. I'll forgive just about anything. But I will never write it. I can tell you that. I'll never write third act breakup.
That's fair.
It's not for me. It's not for me. And you know what? I think that it's probably a more common thing in contemporary romance because honestly, when you write paranormal or fantasy or anything like that, you have so much else to deal with.
Right.
The romance is usually B plot because you have a plot to deal with, or at the very least, you know, you have so much else going on in this world that you've created that you don't necessarily have to resort to um, more common dramatics to keep the tension in the book.
Right.
You could have magic or you know anything could be happening, and that's not you know to crap on anybody who writes third act breakups, but I can't, it's not for me.
I like it. Okay. Is that the only trope you'll say no to, or are
Yeah,
there a few others that you have on your stink list?
I don't care for bully romance.
I'm kind of with you there, and mostly it's because I had a lot of bullies in high school. So, and also I'm petty. Like, if you legitimately like, it's one thing for us to be like witty banter or like enemies to lovers, but if you are a legitimate bully, it's over. We can't be friends. We can't be lovers. I can't. I'm petty. I'm too petty. It would always be on my brain.
That right there is a personality trait. You can be my enemy, you can be my rival, and still be like a good person, but
Right.
you can't be my bully and then still be my good person.
I like it. Uh, so any genres that are on your stink list?
Maybe like horror thriller. I'm a big baby. I'm a big old baby.
That's
Like,
fair.
and the things I have written, like what? However, I can't, I shan't be reading it if I can help it. So,
That's fair. I think mine is historical. Anything earlier than the invention of toilet, like we're talking like now age toilets, not old age toilets, because I know we've had them since the beginning of time. People have worked out how water works. I'm talking like actual electronic water pump toilets. Anything before that, I can't do because people stink and it's not romantic. It's not smexy. I can't do it. If you smell and your teeth are literally rotting out of your mouth because you don't actually eat enough fruits and you have to wipe bird smear on your face, we can't be friends.
do you get that same vibe from like the traditional high fantasy, which almost always equates to like old Europe? Do you get that same?
Yeah, and like it's a fantasy, right? So why can't I have a fantasy where they have working toilets and a shower
I
and
have a
faucets?
fantasy where they have working toilets
Yeah, no,
because magic reasons.
in Fowler, they have working toilets and running water and faucets and stuff because even though it's high fantasy, I refuse to not. But Sabrina doesn't always eat lollipops seductively, but when she does, it's always on Lizzie's lives.
What do you mean? I eat, this is how I eat them.
Uh-huh. So when you're out in public, you just precisely.
If my husband's next to me, I do. It's called being a brat, and I live that life.
The problem is I can't be a brat. I'm such a small bean. I'm such a good girl. I will literally drop any ounce of like backbone that I have to be like, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
So
always pushing buttons.
it seems like I always collect all of the brats, and I don't know what to do with myself when everyone turns bratty against me because like everyone's like, oh, Lizzie, why don't you? And I'm like, no,
It's
no, don't do
okay,
that to me.
Lizzie.
because I
We
will
know what
blush
to do
and I
with
will
you.
freak out and I will drop out of the scene.
We know what
Uh,
to do with you. It's okay.
that's the problem. And all of y'all are going to drive me up a wall and I'm going to lose all my brain cells. And then everyone's going to be like, what happened to the interview? There is no interview. It was merely Sabrina being a brat to me the entire time and me panicking like the pan I am. 24/7. So what since we've talked about the things that you don't like to write and the things that you are currently writing, um, what are some things you take into consideration before starting a new project?
Very little. I'm kind of no thoughts, just vibes. I very
I like that.
often I like I ask my readers a lot since Wattpad has such a connection that I can get answers from people. I'll just put up on my wall like, "Hey, what do you guys want to see next?" Actually, that's kind of how Dirty Lang Sirens that I just finished happened. I was like, "What do you guys want to see next?" Which is this is usually what I do. And
Mhm.
somebody was like, "I really want to see one where the girl is the creature and the guy is the human." I was like, "Okay, bet." So Dirty Lang Sirens is that.
Okay.
So,
I
and I think
love
somebody
that.
else does sirens. I did not make them mermaids. Sirens, they're like they have voice stuff though. And you know what? Let's not get into that. Let's not spoil anything. But yeah,
um,
no, that's completely why I did that. Is because somebody wanted sirens and somebody wanted the girl as the creature and the guy as the humans. I was like, okay, let me
done
figure it out.
and done. Uh, so um is your default MF then? Is that what you're going to stay writing, or are you going to kind of dabble in other relationship types, or what are you comfortable with?
I have side characters that are queer and of varying natures. Starting in book two. In book one, I didn't put too much. I think that because I had written that years ago, and I was like, I'm not
Right.
a very good writer. I am pulling from only what I have literally experienced, and I have not gone
Mhm.
past kissing a girl. So I'm like, okay, I probably don't want to write because I met my husband in high school. To be fair, um,
Mm.
missed opportunities to go wild despite the crush I had on that girl in college. Don't we're not going to talk about her. Like, at that time, I was like only pulling from things that I had like just enough experience in. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Starting in book two, I was like, fuck it, I want them in here. So so I started putting side characters. I'm like, I'm gonna put what I want in here. Um, I during the years I was writing fairies, I did have a past tense friend who really messed with my head about being bi.
Hmm.
It was a lot of like I don't know, like you
You're married to a
you know
man,
what,
so
let's
you
just not
can't really be
this
bi.
would be a this will be a huge downer. So I don't want to get too down into the downer, but it really messed with my head and
Hmm.
being like, oh, I shouldn't be allowed to do anything past this singular long-term relationship I'm in. And the experience that is, which is straight presenting, which is what most of my books are going to be. Would I write a queer main character in the future? Absolutely. I actually have one plotted out. I just don't have the time to do it. Um, Gay werewolves. I don't know. Lady werewolves. But
We
everybody
like it.
is bi. When I say everybody, I mean everybody in the story. Um, it's not that I'm opposed to it, but also for this one, since it's a series, I had began a male female pattern, and I was like, okay, this series that probably establishes um, an expectation in the reader. So this series will be that, and I have plans for other series that will be other things that I can just explore other avenues with. But I absolutely did start representing other things because I wanted that starting in book two, and then just it continues, and in all the books have just keep adding to the pile.
Okay. Um, so do you feel more comfortable now at the style and writing age that you're at now, being able to explore those topics?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I can say for one that that person's no longer in my life
Good.
because I just
Don't need that
could not.
energy.
Yeah, I don't have. We don't have the energy for those people right now.
Right.
I also consumed, like, even before I consumed a lot of books, show, movie, media of other orientations and sexualities, and everything. And I I don't have a problem with it at this point, and I shouldn't have maybe had a problem with it before, but I did. And life happens, and people are people, and it
Well,
is
you
what it
grow
is.
as you get older, and the more you write, the more confident you get in the things that you write. Um, so I'm excited to see you explore all of your avenues. Uh, I
I
did,
did
I did,
actually. Sorry. I did actually have some first person point of view chapters from some of my, let's see, a lesbian couple and a bi couple. I have written first person from those characters' points of views who are in those established relationships. I just have not done a whole book, if that makes
right.
sense.
Um, so you said earlier that you're more of a plotter than you are a pantser,
Mm-hmm.
but it's starting to give me like Plancer vibes over here, where like you have a very vague outline, but mostly it's chaos.
Well, I do ask for people like, what do you want? And that will completely determine what I plot.
Mhm.
So my process is typically give me something to go off of. I write a scene or first chapter, and then I literally plot everything. I have a synopsis written before I continue writing my story.
Hmm.
Like I want to know everything that happens after that point. But when I get started, yeah, it's vibes. Vibes get me started.
We like them. We like the vibes. All right. Uh, so
Do you like the vibes, Lizzie?
you always have to have your vibes charged, especially when you're reading. You gotta be ready. Uh, so what are some I am a mess. Do you have anything else in your personal life, including your brattiness, that kind of plays into your books, or is there less of you in the books than people realize?
I think there's an aspect of me with all of at least my main characters. There are things, I mean, people are not so flat as to be like, I can self insert my characters, but there can be something that I relate to heavily. Thea, especially when I was writing her, um, would never choose a party over a, Netflix at home. She would never choose. She, like, a lot of that energy and that, like, I'm not going to make a big fuss about things and I'm not going to seek out big things. Like, that energy probably is what I brought to Thea, but there are plenty of things that I bring to all of my characters. For instance, I don't know what half of my family is. I was raised by my grandparents, and I have never met my dad. There is a lot of okay. So Thea has um, mom, dad, brother, white picket fence, and that was hard. That shit was the hardest thing I ever wrote. I'm like, what do we do? I kept pulling from like my best friend's family. I'm like, okay. She's been my best friend since first grade, and I have witnessed to this family for like 20 years. I can do this. And that was
Right.
very hard. And so after that, I was like, they either have a messed up family like I did, or they don't appear on screen. That's it. This is it for me. That was it. That was too much. That was too much work.
Terrifying.
giving her giving her a peaceful upbringing was too much work. And so I don't know anyone else is going to have that going forward. I just don't know that they are. If they do, like, we're never going to talk about it.
Right. It's just a vague one sentence liner, never touched on again. Don't worry about it. You'll never meet them.
It was too much work. I can't. It's not
A
going to
good
happen.
family life, we don't know her.
We don't know her.
We don't know her.
Indeed.
Coming from someone who has a complicated family as well. I do feel that a lot of those emotions. I don't think I've written anyone who has like a solid 10 out of 10 family experience in my books. Like everyone's got some sort of wackadoodle family. Whether it's 12 siblings, you don't have family. Your mom's, an evil witch, stuff like that. Like I don't think I know how to write people with good family.
I and like the funny thing is, I even named the dad after my friend's dad because I was like, let's just acknowledge like the character was not like her dad. Like the family members' personalities were not like that. Like I didn't just pluck her but like let's acknowledge here how much introspection I have given the times I have stayed at your house to write this book. So
Right.
I
You need
named
to pull from your history, not mine, yours.
yeah.
Family dynamics, we don't know her. We
Yeah, we
don't know
don't know.
her. Um, so what, speaking of like naming and stuff, how do you go about naming your characters? Because I find that a lot of how authors name their characters has to do with like the kind of person and writer that they are.
Okay, so I used to be a phone operator.
Yeah.
For the state government, actually. And I would get, a bunch of calls a day. Every time I heard an interesting name, I wrote it down. And I would mix and match first and last names. I still write down interesting names I hear. I'm no longer a state operator, and but I'll go through like baby name sites sometimes, just browse, just add to my collection because inevitably I've scratched some off. So I collect names
I'm a
that
name
I
stealer
like.
too. Um, I work in admin, so all I do is make Excel sheets and send out emails. And
So
so
you
I'm
see a lot of
constantly looking
names.
at their names. I have an Excel sheet in my Google Docs with maybe 400 names, and I pull up a randomizer and I pick one through blah blah blah, and like I have two sheets. First is for first names, second is for second names, and I just flip it. And like it really works well for fantasy, but the problem is on the flip side, I do have an orc named Greg. So it's got some ups and downs. But I think that's uniquely me is like the more fantasy the creature is, the more tempted I am to call him Tim. Like if he's a magical, like
Perfection.
my bugbear boyfriend that's coming out next month, his name is Dan. His bugbear, his name's Dan. Uh, and I can't resist. Like all of my humans get like Aphrodite, Ophelia, Dionysus, like they get all the really cool fanciful names, and then the magical creatures that are of legend. His name's Steve.
You know what? You're right. I've got Thea, I've got Danica, I've got Juniper, and I've got Madeline. And like,
Right? What are their boyfriends' names, huh? Sabrina? What are their
oh
boyfriends'
shit.
names?
Okay. Devin, Riker, Dominic, and Dom. I did purposefully name him Dom. And Caspian.
See? Exactly. The more fantasy their creatures they are, the more I'm tempted to call them David. Nor I had a high elvish like counselor whose name was like Sydney. It's like that. Greg is a great name for an orc. Hi, Jilly. So I've also seen authors who do the online roulette where they pull up a baby site and they do a randomizer for a letter, and then they just go to that letter and scroll down a couple and just pick the first one. They're like,
Oh,
Daphne.
I
Her name's
can't.
Daphne now. And and then there are people who painstakingly pick out their names. And those are the people that, like, if they think for 3 months about how to name their first character, I know for a fact you have a handwritten bulletin board with your entire plot with strings. You look like the guy from It's Always Sunny where he's like, it all makes sense. Like,
Arlington.
you look like that when you're plotting your book. So I just know If you're like, it has to say the exact same thing, and if you can't find what you want in what language you want the name in to say the exact thing you want their name to say, and you want everyone to know it, then that's just a lot of work. That's why his name is Greg.
Fair enough.
Uh, but
Sorry, I'm
so
adjusting my thing.
you're good. Uh, what are some other things you come into like consideration for making these characters? So, what made you decide dragons for the second, and then wolves or sirens? What went into that, other than obviously your comment section possibly helping you?
Somebody somebody said I want a dragon, and my husband likes werewolves. So I was like, I'm gonna write werewolves. They're gonna be sexy werewolves though.
Uh, how sexy? Talking
I
like washboard
mean,
abs. We're talking Tom
you know,
Hiddleston.
the funny thing is because I know the extreme abs in movies come from like working out really hard and then dehydrating yourself. I never write about abs. I'll write about
Yep.
pecs or
Mm,
or like biceps. I love talking about biceps. I love talking about arms, but I
I
just
like the
don't
thigh
want to
muscle.
use the word abs because I'm like, we love a hydrated king. We do.
You got to be
Yeah.
hydrated in order to fill her up.
You need water in your system to go more than an hour. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you do. Get hydrated. Drink your water, babes. Uh,
I'll do it now.
on the note, drink your water, babes. Um, so, are your books, before I ask the next question, are your books spicy, like written out spicy? Are they spicy suggested, or are they non-spicy?
It's definitely open door. It's a little spicier on Wattpad than the edited version.
Fair.
Um,
Very fair.
Admittedly, there's only like one actual open door scene going on in Fairies where there had been like two or three on Wattpad, but editing, 6 years after I wrote a book, I was looking and I was like, my editor was so kind in the things they said about it, but I'm like, first of all, I'm here for a bunch of just good time scenes, but like two of these are doing nothing for this book. They're gone. This one is doing something for this book. We're keeping it, but we're making it better. Um, so
Hey,
so
come
we
on.
ended up with the
Sometimes
one
the
in
smut is
Fairies.
plot. Right.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. But the two of like they really were just like out of no, I they weren't doing it for me, so they were gone. I cut those. Probably rightfully so, and I improved upon the one that got published. Um, I will say that I'm getting worse as I write. Like, there's more of that kind of content in Sirens than there was in Fairies.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that I've kind of like reached my amount of it and tapered off. I am fully willing to write one that is a lot more spicy, but I want to, much like the either straight or straight passing main couple, I want to keep like the vibes going, the expected vibes to coast, in the same sort of direction. I have my entire writing career to write more books in other directions and make them spicier or whatever I want to do with them. And so that's completely fine and good. Um, yeah, I'm attempting to keep a level.
Double-headed spice level.
We'll see. I'm trying. I am trying. Um, Technically there was three in Fairies and there was only two in Dragons, but the two that were in Dragons, you know what? We're not going to talk about that right now. And then we'll see. I'm in the middle of editing Dragons right now, actually. So
Mhm.
we'll see what I do by the end of this one. This one's a really big content edit push. I like how every time I turn on my monitor, I'm like white ghost.
A full anime character.
Um,
Push up the glasses.
just put yeah. So I'm just looking at that right now. No, one of the videos that is under review that automatically went under review was one where I was reading a couple lines from this. Actually, I was like, here's a couple lines I'm editing today, and I read them, and I didn't technically say any words that would have got me bananaed.
Fair.
but that being the first video, I was like, oh, I pushed it too hard. But then the other two videos weren't. But this is why I thought, oh, they're just reviewing because it's spicy. My bad.
They're like,
My bad.
oh,
Oops. Oops.
You've been naughty. Hi, Sarah. Welcome in. So then is like in the future, is there a future in where Sabrina goes completely unhinged and goes literal balls to the wall when it comes to spice, or are you feeling like you're more of a there's a plot with a romance subplot, or like are you gonna experiment? What are you vibes?
So here's the thing. I want to write more spice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that like the level that's in the series, fine, good, awesome, because we've established it. I am happy with it. We're gonna keep going that direction. I do have right now plans for this nano. Actually, I'm writing a gargoyle story. I have got a monster universe with two friends of mine from Wattpad. We've been, friends for a long time. And I'm like, I want to write something outside of my various contracts. And we kind of landed on, okay, we made a shared universe. We made a city where all kinds of monsters live under the surface. The most of the population doesn't know about them, so you can continue to have these monster romance stories with the big reveal, the oh my gosh, you're a thing that's not a human. Um, so we've got that going on. We've got our setting that we're sharing, and then like I will write some stories in this city, and then my other two friends will also write some stories in this city. So I'm planning this gargoyle one for my first one, and I definitely want to push it harder than I push anything I've written before.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying really hard to make the romance more of the A plot. There is other plot in it.
Right.
I always just write such hard plot. I really like a plot driven story, but I'm like, how do you make romance the A plot is what I was struggling with. So I'm like, well, this is going to be the story where I figure that out because I have a gargoyle and I'm planning on temperature play and a textured tongue. So we got to get through that. We
I
got to get
love
through
that. I
that.
love that for you.
So can I get worse than that or like spicier than that in the future? I don't know. Maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll keep pushing those limits. I'm not going
Oh,
to
I'll
say
push
I
your limit.
wouldn't write. Yeah. So I do want to start pushing it. I don't know what my limit will be. I don't know where is pushing too far where I'm just like, I'm not into writing this, but I know it's harder than I've done before. I'm going to keep trying.
Oh, it's always harder than you've done before. You started this.
I mean, we're about to write Rock Daddy here. So yeah.
Yes, you're calling him Rock Daddy. That's that's gonna be the name.
I
So look, that's how Katos is called Cat Daddy amongst everyone who reads it. You start calling it as a joke, and all of a sudden, no one remembers the title of the fucking book. They only remember the nickname of it, and everyone, when they discuss it, calls it Cat Daddy. So be careful when calling it Rock Daddy, because all of a sudden, it's not a joke anymore.
he can be Rock Daddy. It's okay.
He'll rock something for you.
He will. Why did I choose gargoyles? I have always loved gargoyles ever since 1997 when I wanted to fuck Goliath. I've loved gargoyles. Probably didn't want to fuck him in 1997 because I was a child, but but
As you grew up,
you know
though.
what I'm talking about.
But that brings a fantastic point, which is part of my list of things to ask. What are some other monsters that have inspired you in past media to be in love with shifters and creatures and things of the night?
I mean, Goliath is up there.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
is so so is the Goblin King Jared from um,
Yes.
Labyrinth. First of all, I
Yes.
think David Bowie's performance was great, but second of all, he encompasses this kind of yes, he's human looking, and everybody has a different limit that they say is a monster. Like I just
Right.
today heard somebody say something monster romance and then mentioned like Akatar, and I was like, oh,
They're
that's
elves.
your
It's not.
limit. I mean, and that is for some people, but I'm ready to read everything, every kind of toolkit you can put on a character. I have read it, and so my level of what is monster is different than that. But what the Goblin King did, Jareth,
Yeah.
So tired, Jared. What he did encompass with me, I think, is some of that personality of like, oh, you're not human. You have a different morality than humans. Um,
Mm.
and then like just the tricks and stuff like that. Definitely into that.
And
Definitely
there's
into
something
that.
ethereal about him that, like, yeah, sure, from a glance, human-esque, but like when you really
Right.
look at it, you're like, you're not human or you're not real. There's something, uh, what do they call it? Surreal, but like not real. It'll come to me later. Uh, that's with a lot of things. Anyway, um, so any other inspirations that have kind of brought you along your journey of creatures and your love of the magical world?
I mean, I think we can say the beast without like uh, no explanation needed.
Classic. Mm-hmm. It was so disappointing when he turned human.
It was. I was like, no, go back.
Go back. I really do appreciate in. I know a lot of people don't like the Disney live action one with Emma Watson. I did. I appreciated the line at the end where she was like, "How do you feel about growing a beard?" Because same, absolutely same, right?
There you go. Yes. Yes.
Just just a little bit. Like the horns need to come back, the fur, the claw, at least a little bit, just a little bit. So is there a future in where Sabrina goes full monster fudgery, um, or is Sabrina staying like closer to shifters, humanoid-esque? I know you've got Rock Daddy coming out, so uh, like how close to the line are we getting?
Well, they made me take off the scaled for her pleasure on dragons. So, no, I am probably. I mean, to me, there's like lower tier monsters, which are humans with extra features, right? That's where
Right.
we're at, and that's probably what this Dirty Line universe will stay at. Am I willing to get weirder? Oh, I am. Oh, yes, I am. That's fine with
Yes.
me. Temperature play with Rock Daddy is step one, which
Give
I'm
it.
looking forward to doing. I'm so excited to write this. Brooke actually in a live at some point was like, somebody said something like the next step is somebody's going to write a story for Brooke, and I was like, bet, give me. So I've got, where's my list?
Bet.
Okay, I've got a request list from Brooke of things to do, and I already have it plotted out. I don't think it'll be extremely
Well,
long, but I already have it plotted out.
so what's the general outline looking like?
For that one, we do have somebody who accidentally goes to another world um,
You like it?
temporarily. We've got a portal magic is involved. There's an accident she goes through, and um, the whole thing was an accident. She has no magic. She is a completely normal human, so she gets lost in this. Ooh, like going back to inspiration. Do you remember that show, Land of the Lost? And everyone was stuck back in the dinosaur times. Okay, so I was
Yes.
like, let's catch something. Let's send somebody back to like a like wild wilderness that you're not going to survive in by yourself. And the thing that helps her survive is going to be absolutely not human. I'm still working on the details of what it's going to look like.
That's fair.
Um,
You gotta go shopping. You gotta go shopping for
I
features,
do got to go
especially the
shopping.
more monster fudgery you go.
I know we have tail necklace on the list, so like, yeah, I
We
know
love
we have
tail
tail
necklaces.
necklace. Yeah, so I'm still kind of working on what it looks like. I have the loose hole plot for it. So we've got this whole like, she lands here, she is not going to survive here. This thing takes her to help her survive. Like complete language barrier. I'm excited for this one. I don't know how long it's going to be, like I said, but I have work to do. I got to figure some stuff out still, so it's going to have to wait until I do my other obligations.
Fair. Um, so other than obviously plotting, what other things do you feel like go into your process? Like music, reading, in like finding picture inspiration. Are you a Pinterest girly? Like what's your process? What gets you grooving?
I like to make playlists, but I cannot use them while I'm actually writing. I can't have like words. I can't have lyrics.
Fair.
So I usually listen to like just things with no lyrics, but I do like to make the playlists because they give me the vibe, and I listen to the playlists when I'm not able to write. Like if I'm driving,
Mm.
or I can play music while I'm in the shower and listen to it. And like it gets the thoughts going. And I'm like, oh my God, this song is so this situation or this character or whatever. So I do love the playlists. I've got to have the playlists.
I love that. Um, so when it comes to Dirty Lang Fairies, what are kind of the top vibe songs on that playlist for Dirty Lang Fairies, if you can remember off the top of your head?
Okay, well, one of them for sure. So my sister actually gave me this song. She's like, oh, this is chapter one entirely. And I was like, fucking hell, you're right. Taylor Swift's Enchanted.
Yup.
Yeah, like that whole that the first chapter is that song, and I was like, oh, okay, you're right.
I
So
like
that's
it.
definitely on there. Like previously, I had been having Livy on Rose, um, the old like 1960s Sabrina, because when you're like 10 and you find a movie with your name, which is not a common name, you watch that movie a lot. So like I was really into that. That got me into Audrey Hepburn. But Livy on Rose is a song in there, and it's in French, but like the lyrics are beautiful, the music is beautiful. There's actually a scene where Devin and Thea get to spend some time alone in a greenhouse, the greenhouse from the cover, actually, which if you can see back here is the greenhouse. So they get to spend some time in there, and like I'm like, oh yeah, that's the song, for that one. So Livy on Rose is there. Crap. I was just actually.
Looking at your playlist.
I'm going to now.
Gotcha.
Spotify. I have my Spotify, I think, in my link tree, I believe.
Mm.
But let me go. So I know those two songs for sure, which is so weird. Like my sister's very much into Taylor Swift, and I'm just like, oh well, if it's on the radio, sure. Um, but like she'll just listen to every song. She's an analyzer. I'm like, Jesus. I don't know if she does it so much anymore now because she's like graduated and has a big girl job and all that stuff. But there was a time. There was a time.
Right.
Let's see. So yeah. Okay. What's the fairies list? Oh God.
Oh no.
Um. Okay. Do you know that song Calvin Harris and Rihanna, like I think, has parts in it? This is what you came for.
Yep.
Lightning
Down there.
strikes every time. Okay. Well, that one's definitely one. What else do I even
Okay.
have on here? Some Hosier. I always. Oh, and
I love
and
that.
the forest deity he worships, Florence. Florence the Machine is also on here. What else is on here?
Always.
Yeah, I don't know, just a few different things. Um, I would say those are the top three that are. I'm like, yeah, yeah, these are the songs. These are the songs for it. Got Middle of the Night there for Devin. There you go. Obviously.
Absolutely.
So
Uh, so you brought up your cover. So what
yes.
kind of sway did you get in collecting the cover, or did you have any say in what the cover was going to look like? What happened with the cover?
I basically don't think I was gonna get anything at all. But what they did give me was like basically this worksheet thing, like, oh, what kind of themes would you repeating themes would be like maybe useful on a cover, and like a couple little opinion things like that. And I basically was like, look, I'll fill out some repeating scenes, and I'm not going to give you anything else that you asked, like what would you prefer, because I know you're not going to listen to me, and I can't be disappointed if I did not tell you what I wanted and then you don't give it to me. So the fact that I got this out of it, some kind of miracle.
Fair.
But correct, I
Uh,
was not in fact disappointed in a cover I did not already like picture in my head. So I think I did say like, oh, the greenhouse, because it's a thing visited and brought up in the story, and so they put that as the background, and I was like, oh, that's good, I like that. So I lucked out.
so have you already seen Dragon's cover, or have they not touched it yet?
They're working on it now, actually. um I don't have anything I can show or share right now. They basically
Right.
gave me like the background, like the first half of the book is set in one place and the second half is set in the other. But the first half is set when Danny accidentally portals across the world to the Siberian plateau. And so we've got like trees and snow and like a starry sky for the background. And then, for a front and center, it's going to be currently like, unless things change, it's going to be a dragon. They just like put up a random placeholder dragon. They're like, we're going to hire an illustrator
Replace
for the
this.
dragon because
Right.
this ain't it. And I was like, okay, just look at the background then. Okay.
Correct. Just don't look at the dragon. He's
Don't
just
look at the
he's
dragon.
just chilling here for a moment. I
So,
love
yeah.
I love that. Um, so I have to ask, is he winged dragon or is he like Godzilla dragon? Like on a scale of
Wings.
1 to 10, how wings?
He's got to have wings. He's got to have wings because even in human form, he can pop out the wings. And I like
Mhm.
that.
We
I
like
like
it. We like a free ride man. Um, so what are some things you're doing different with Dragon than you did with like Dirty Lying Fairies?
All right. So all of the fairies they have a society. They have rules that they live by. They have some kind of structure going on.
Mhm.
Um, Riker's a mercenary who tries to
Cool.
live alone, and his closest friend he constantly tells to fuck off. So uh,
We like that. We love
the
that.
biggest differences I think we have here are the structured fae who have rules that they live by, and just like hot mess, don't know what I'm doing with my life. Danny meets mercenary asshole dragon gifter. I don't like just the structure and the mess. So like that's probably the most stark difference.
We like that. Okay.
There's a lot more
So
cursing in this book. Like
absolutely, as
a
there
lot
should
more.
be, as you should. Um, so what is something you're doing for your marketing for this one that you didn't do for fairies? Because now that you've gone through fairies, what is the evolution of Sabrina look like?
I don't know. I don't know what to do different. I'm not a very good marketer, so like trad was probably the way to go for me. Um I'm I used to just like um I'm I used to just like show page snippets very early in my TikTok and Instagram careers trying to be like, "Oh, here's a quote from the book." I don't think that's it for me. I don't think I enjoy hunting for them. I think I like now I would rather TikTok is my favorite social media platform. Not only have I made a bunch of friends, but it feels very easy to me. Like it feels like I can, I vibe with this one. Um I really like share like reading out loud just a line or two that I happen to be in the middle of editing or reading or whatever. That's been fun for me. So that's probably something I'm going to try to do more of as I know the book is getting closer to completed and those lines are more set in stone.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. Um, what should your soon-to-be readers expect from you going forward? Obviously, like with this series, they're going to be get at the minimum 3 books, right? Um,
Yeah.
what else do you feel like they're going to be seeing in the next like 3 to 5 years?
Okay. I really like writing fate in various forms. And one thing I really, really want to put out into the world, it's on Wattpad now in a very rough first draft. But
Mhm.
if I have any readers who are feral for a piece of work I've written, it is for the Wild trilogy, which is high fantasy. Um, every trauma I've ever had is in that book. No, it's got so much more emotion in it.
Uh-huh.
It's got a huge story to it. It has got if you like to read for character growth, like the growth arc of the main character, I am here for her. She has this oh no, I don't want to do any spoilers. Okay, but there's fate, there's magic, there's witches, there's like found family, there's lost family, there's just so much happening in this story. And if I had like a dream schedule over the next 3 years, it would have room in it for me to edit and release that trilogy into the world. That would be ideal.
Ideal.
Ideal to me. Yeah. I am going to currently it's the main character is 19, so the romance I gave her was only so strong and shut door because I will not open the door with a teenager. I am thinking about aging her up because I feel like it's more appropriate for the character anyway. So I'm going to bump her into her mid 20s and then throw that door wide open. It won't be there until book 3 because that's just how it develops, but when we get to book 3, when we get there, I'm excited for that.
Absolutely.
Because when I tell you I wrote what I did write, the closed door, and then everybody in the comment section is just like, robbed. I'm so
I've
sorry.
been robbed.
I'm sorry. I don't write teenagers having sex.
I absolutely, absolutely agree. I get like, I won't yunk. I won't yunk anybody's yum, but it gives me ick vibe when we have adults writing about teens doing the nasty. I don't like it. I don't dance with it. Uh,
Yeah.
yep, I'm not gonna yonk it. uh,
I
I
yeah.
I absolutely agree. Bumping up probably is your best, and also like as I've gotten older, my characters have also aged with me. So now they're all like mid to late 20s, getting on up there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I my
so
characters will probably continue to age up a little bit too because everyone in the Dirty Lying universe is probably to stay in their 20s. Like I said,
mhm,
keeping the vibe. Um,
right, keeping it across the board.
I don't have problems reaching into 30s now that I'm in my 30s, so I will probably continue to do that. But no, but Rin, the main character from this trilogy, having written the whole thing now, I think she always should have been like maybe 24, 25. She always should have been I'm I'm grown. I don't know. Like she
Right.
always should have been there. So um didn't know her as well in book 1 as I did saying the end in book 3. So the retrospection is going to be wild for me to fix these books because they do need fixing, but it is a story I would really like out in the world. Like if things worked out ideally,
Mhm.
that would be out in the world.
I like it. Something else I brought up in some of my other author interviews. It can be funny. It can be absolutely ridiculous. It can be a whoops moment. What is something as an author now that we're talking about retrospection that you regret either doing, writing, or being a part of? It absolutely does not have to be serious. Uh, my first example would be publishing something after it's only been edited twice, and by twice I meant it was edited once by me and then edited a second time by my best friend. And then I put it on KDP, no instruction, just put it out there. Have since brought it down, made massive mistakes. What is something you regret as an author?
So years ago, when I thought my writing wasn't going to go anywhere, this was actually right before they even approached me at Wattpad to get Dirty Lang Fairies into the paid stories program. I
Mhm.
was like, man, I've got these books and some people are reading them, but like I really want to go further. I want to go a step further. So I took this first draft, first 10 pages of Half Wild, the first book from that one, and it has since been edited like a number of times, the first chapter of this. But I queried it. The
Mhm.
query was not good. The letter was bad. The first 10 pages were bad. It was all bad. That was the one and done. I was like, I'll just do one. If I get feedback, I know I'm at least doing something. I never get feedback. I didn't even get a rejection. I just never heard from them again.
Dead
I'm like, oh
silence.
God. So I just
So
like I
much
realized
worse.
this way. I realized this was several years ago, but looking back, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't try to do more. I do not want to think about what would have happened if I had just been like sending those out. Oh my God.
Yeah, no,
No.
along those same lines, when I was in high school, because I've always known I wanted to be a writer, in high school, I had books that really were inappropriate for me to be at that age to be writing, and I was writing them, and I made the mistake of scribbling during English class because we were all just working on book report, right? The teacher walks up trying to see what I'm working on, thinking I'm working on book report. I am not. Um, and I was working on something rather inappropriate to work on in school, being egged on by my friends, and I had to then explain to my principal why I had a
Perfection.
notebook of. I got in trouble. Worst part, I came home. My mom was laughing, rolling on the ground. She's like, "Your brother flipped a car. Your brother punched a kid at school. Your sister got expelled for this, that, and the other. You get detention for writing inappropriate smut at school. I swear to God, Elizabeth." Elizabeth, she's like, "Why are you the weird one?" I was like, "I'm the good kid." And she's like, "Apparently not. You got detention." And it that and my cell phone going off in the middle of school are the only reasons I ever got detention my entire school life. I thoroughly regret writing in my English class. Thoroughly regret it. And also, later on, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know you really like writing. You should really consider, reading these books." It was like intro to writing or whatever. And I was like, is this a subtle way to insult my really bad smut that I was writing at 16? Well, rude. uh, so, uh, maybe the next one is, what are some things that you've learned through this process that you won't do again, or that you would uh, you're wiser to now that you would go against newer authors doing?
Tell them not to do. Like if I could warn somebody else not to do.
Yeah,
For this probably relates just to people who write serial online stories, but like if you're on Wattpad or wherever else you are, do not take on a schedule you cannot handle and then force it on yourself. I've had times where like I often am writing more than one story at once, but if I let all of those stories have a weekly release chapter, eventually that catches up with me. Um, and it's something I see often too. Lots of people like write a bunch and put these schedules on themselves, and it's too hard. You can't, if you need to slow down, slow down. Telling your readers you have a once a month schedule instead of a once a week, if that's what you have to do that. Don't. But I think it's pretty common, especially newer writers to platforms like that. So like, don't take on too much. Just do not. Better yet, like one of those extra stories, write it, but don't be publishing those chapters. Don't let anybody know you're writing it. Just be the other thing you're writing. And then you have one that you can drop all at once, or like it's all written and you can do once per week, but just don't, yeah.
like that. Um, what is some advice that you would give um, to anyone wanting to take on like fantasy, urban fantasy as you are, um, specifically like genre or book type? What advice would you give to someone on that?
If you don't read or consume that kind of thing, it's hard to understand that kind of thing. Even if you don't read up on the technicalities of the genre, fantasy, you will instinctually pick up on a surprising amount of things if you consume a lot of media of fantasy, I think. There are going to be tropes that you didn't realize you knew and are writing in there. There are going to be themes you didn't realize you were writing in there, but that are classic fantasy themes. I think you've got to consume it if you want to write it, especially for something higher concept like high fantasy or sci-fi. So
I like it. Um, so are you always going to be writing romance before I give you the next one?
Probably. I can't picture not doing it.
So then, what's some advice you would give to someone who wants to write romance who maybe hasn't written romance before?
Figure out what words you want to use in a spicy scene and what words you do not want to use in a spicy scene before you get to the spicy scenes. And
Yeah.
then you will know what you want out of it. And you're not sitting there being like, do I hate the word cock? Do I like the word cock? Can I say moist? I don't know. Like, you gotta, because you're gonna run into that wall. You're gonna be like, oh my god, what words am I willing to say and what am I not? Figure that out before you get there.
Right. Figure those spicy words out before you get to the spicy scene. Um,
Like,
and have my advice also would be find three adjectives or three words you want to use for male, female, and non-binary, and keep them on a sticky note. Because the more descriptors you get, the more adjectives you add on, the weirder into the worst category we go. And like, I am all for having some creative names, but if I have to read another entered the roast beef sandwich of her heart, I'm going to lose my mind. So,
are you
yeah.
serious? Like,
Yeah,
I'm fine when somebody just says entrance or core. I'll figure it out.
right.
I'll
Entrance,
figure it
core,
out.
slit,
The
lips. I'm
standards. Yeah.
down. I'll even go for some folds, but what I won't deal with is in my murder mystery book. They're getting on. I'm like, oh, this is an added surprise. Not an added surprise. It's an added curse because he entered the roast beef sandwich of her heart and left me mortified for days.
Oh no.
No, what was happening? So along those lines, what are some other favorite words of yours? They don't have to be spicy, but do you have some favorite words that you like to use in your books? Like, I like to use viscous. I just like the way that it sounds, and curmudgeon and rumpus. I use those a lot.
I don't know about specific words. I definitely have specific phrases. Like, is it even a Sabrina Blackburry book if somebody didn't sigh through their nose? Because, like, all the time. And what else? Her lips parted in surprise. I think those two, like, I write both of those.
A lot.
Maybe too much. At this point, like, I control find and I'm like, okay, I can't do more than a couple of these per book because I have a problem.
Right. We got to keep the limit down to parted and surprise just a little bit. Keep it at a regular level. Um, so, uh, when it comes to editing, what are some things you do on your own, and what are some things you've picked up now that you've had Wattpad and their press edit for you?
I can't edit. I'm bad at it. You know what though? I have a lot of regular readers on Wattpad who will
Mm-hmm.
like in the comment section, they have my permission. They were like, "Do you want me to?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." They'll be like, "You misspelled this. This is the wrong sentence structure. Like this actually makes me remember this thing from this chapter and that can't happen." And so then I can go back and use their notes. So like free beta readers.
Yeah, precisely.
I'm very bad.
You've got a whole bunch of beta readers at the ready. I love that.
I'm not the
And
best self editor. I like helping other people edit, but I'm not the best self editor.
that's fair.
I'm not.
We've got to know our own limits. We've got to know what we're capable of doing. Um, so, what would you say your editor at the press probably marks the most since you're doing edits for Dragos?
Eyes. Eyes.
Eyes.
I talk about eyes too much. Everybody's looking and seeing and meeting gazes, and there's too much. Too much about eyes. And then, like, specifically, I got notes back about, like, now every time your characters have to talk about something, they have to go eat to do that. And I was like,
I got a nibble,
always
lady.
like they always have to go get food to have the deep conversations and they're like and she's like every time and I'm like I am so sorry actually Actually, I have something in my acknowledgments about it.
Oh, is
I
it even a
do.
Sabrina Blackberry book if she doesn't mention going to get food in order to have a
Going
deep
to get food.
conversation?
And I tell you what, like that, you will learn two things about me if I ever publish and you see the Wild trilogy. You will learn that I like food and I like hot baths, and that's like the whole book is
Oh
about
yeah,
that. There's plot, but like the book is about that.
it's about baths.
Okay, Tiana McFadden and the Wattpad books and Wilmot for all the insightful editing. The experience from start to finish has been challenging but rewarding, and I'm so grateful for everyone on the team who had a hand, especially Daniel. I promise in my next food, or at least I'll try.
I love that. I love that for you. Did you try to?
Oh, you froze for me a second.
I will wait. Am I back?
No, yeah, you're back now. It was really just a second. I just don't know what you said.
Oh, so since you said, I promise I'll try, did you?
I did. I don't talk about food that much. I talk about alcohol a lot though.
Love that. Uh,
Like,
well,
and that's so on point. Dirty Lying Fairies, food. Dirty Lying Dragons,
alcohol.
alcohol.
It goes with the mercenary work, right? He's a mercenary. It would make so much sense. Um, so Katie Roberts, our queen and lord and savior, posted on Twitter the other day that it was like people really see a painting when I describe like a bathtub, because she was like, I love interior design. And I am also a sleut for interior design. I will describe a bathtub in far more detail than I will an NPC. Um, what are some things, obviously, baths and food, what are some things your readers will notice when they're reading your books?
Baths and food for sure. Let's see. Let me think about that. If there's a fireplace, we're gonna hear about it.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. The just the vibes of something maybe. Let me go up to okay. I'm going to actually read a little cut from Dirty Lying Dragons to give you an idea of how I would describe something. Because why the fuck
Absolutely.
not?
Why not?
Okay. When I sat up, my head spun from the quick motion. This was not my bed. Actually, could you call it a bed? It was a loft of some kind with a giant mattress laying right on the wooden floor. The mattress had black wool sheets, but the similarities to an actual bed stopped there. On top of what had to be a custom sized mattress were piled furs. Actual furs from animals. Dangerous animals. And in lieu of pillows, there were rolled up sheep fleeces. Weird, but comfortable. It all looked a little too caveman for my taste. Which brought to mind tall, dark, and questionable from a hot spring. I moved a little more, and the furs dropped from my shoulder. Oh, well, it's just more shit. Where's the house? Whatever. That's how I describe a bed.
I like it. I like it. So also a sloop for interior design uh for beds and furs and stuff. Um, do you ever look for inspiration, like on how to design a house, or does it all just kind of come up in the head?
I guess it just comes up in the head. Because what I'll do is like, I want a house or a building or a room with this specific vibe. And then I'm like, what would that actually look like for real and not just in my head? And so then I have to go look on the internet for stuff. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. And sometimes I'm like, you stupid bitch. You can't put that in that room.
That bedside
Horrible.
table with that four-poster bed, ugh, terrible. It looks despicable.
So I always think I have an idea, but then I have to like double check myself.
Because I've been told before, oh, I design all my houses in The Sims, or oh, I go to Pinterest, or um,
Fun.
right. Some people design them in. There was this like interior design platform back when role play forums were a lot bigger, and people would design whole houses for their characters that they would never use in role play. And I got lost in that app quite a few times, just designing things that I would never use.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so, what are some other resources? So, obviously, sometimes you go looking for some aesthetics or interior. Um, do you ever look up like cooking recipes for your books or like music for ballroom scenes?
Actually, I did. I had to look up a bunch of food now that you mentioned that for one book I'm writing. It's not done right now. I kind of put it on hiatus while I have like the thing I'm getting paid to do because it's
Right.
just another one of my first drafts on Wattpad. But it's called Giving Blood at the Danton Bakery. It's another urban fantasy. I guess it's a rom com. Um,
Ooh.
but it is in a bakery, and the first few chapters didn't, but like now every chapter has a recipe at the bottom involving a food that we talked about in the. It comes back to food again, doesn't it? It comes
Is
right
a
back to
Sabrina
food.
Blackburry book if it doesn't have a focus on food?
Talk about food. Yeah, so oh god. Let me read you the premise of this one because I'm trying to reach into I know I've written before like rom-com comedy a little bit before.
Mhm.
But this one was just silly. This one is spice free. It's very I don't know. I wasn't it's everyone's too silly for those vibes. I don't it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Okay. I just give me the damn blurb. How many books have I written on here? There it is. Scroll down. Theo Danton, a vampire with a sweet tooth, devises a plot to trade pastries for blood donations in an unorthodox bakery. All finally goes according to plan until his heart starts beating again for the sweet new pastry chef. He's like, the one thing I miss from being alive is sweets. So oh no, Lizzie, are you frozen or am I frozen? Or are
No,
you just still? You're
I
just
was
like
just,
still.
I was perfectly still. Sorry.
So the one thing he misses from being alive is sweets, and so he's like, I'm going to give humans sweets and then take their blood.
Right? Equal exchange. I like that.
when
Hey, I'm getting
when the blood
sweets.
sugar spike, like the
Right.
blood sugar spikes, and then he can have
Makes
sweet
sense.
blood. Um, it's not going well, but I guess that's what happens in comedies. Is usually things don't go well.
They don't go well.
They don't go well.
It's-
Absolutely not.
so that one's also going to print. Is that what it is?
Probably not. It's too
Uh,
silly. But I did like, oh, just the food reminded me of that. Like I had to research so much for recipes and like what is allowed to publish as a recipe you wrote, even though I'm being like, I didn't really write this. It's a recipe for the book.
right.
I, but yeah, I've spent a lot of time looking up food for that one. Usually the thing I spend the most time on researching for books is just Google Street View, just roaming
Yep.
around places that I've never
So
been.
speaking of falling down rabbit holes, what are some other rabbit holes that you as an author find yourself trapped in? Whether it's like on TikTok, Twitter, Reddit. What are some rabbit holes you get caught in?
I read a lot of travel blogs and travel sites for places I've never been to for stuff. And I always find out like the most interesting things about places I don't live or haven't been to or have visited very little. Did you know that the aquarium in Seattle used to have an octopus sex show? There was an octopus that was frisky around Valentine's Day, and you could come watch that. But then they eventually had to stop because the male octopus was getting so big, they were worried he was going to cannibalize his partners. And so they had to stop. But there used to be an octopus sex show in Seattle. And I learned that while I was looking up Seattle shit for fairies.
I mean, make your money the way you got to, Seattle. I mean, people will pay to see those kinds of things with humans, so I expect they would pay exuberant amounts of money to watch octopi do it. So good on you, Seattle. Good on you, I guess.
Isn't that the most Pacific Northwest thing you've heard all day?
Yeah, no, that seems a little Cthulhu-y for me. Like that absolutely seems like something someone in the mountains that constantly gets rained and has dark skies. They're like, you know what seems like a really good idea? Sea creature corn. It's gonna be great.
No. Like that just it's just funny that Valentine's Day was about the time of year that was just that species is spicy season. I don't how it goes.
Hey, octopi are a lot smarter than people think.
They
I
scare
did
me.
read, right. I did read about the octopi that kept escaping his enclosure and going across the hall to go eat like creatures out of the other tank, and they couldn't figure out how he was escaping. And I'm like, octopi are too smart. This is why everyone's afraid of Cthulhu, because he's just a giant octopi dragon. He's too smart. I don't like it. I don't like that the sea creature is smarter than me. It could probably do my taxes. I'm just saying. Like, if the creature can learn to open a can and I'm struggling with a pesto bottle, we have problems. I just have problems.
That's right.
But
Absolutely, I agree. I don't need to know what's going on in the deeper ocean. Like that's none of my business.
right, like, are they writing human novels? Is that what's going on? Is like we call them monster novels, but like are the sea creatures writing human novels and they're the monster novels of the under ocean? Like I need to know. Are the octopi using typewriters?
That would be great. I would love that. They have ink, right? Or is that squids?
Precisely. What else do they need ink for? Then writing. It's a
What you
plot.
got the ink for? You writing smut?
Right. The weird smut. And it's weird. You know it's gotta be weird.
Yeah.
Um, but as we're wrapping down, if you could have like a tagline or something that all of your readers need to know about you as an author and then your work, what would it be?
I actually have a tagline for my work. My work is I write love with a touch of magic.
I love that.
So,
Uh,
but for me,
mhm.
um, Sabrina Blackburry, I hope you like food and hot baths. I don't know.
I love
That's
that.
all I got.
Yeah. Um, so since you say everything's with a touch of magic, then I imagine contemporary is not in your future.
I can't. No, it can't. I have tried before to plot that kind
Mhm.
of thing. It kind of falls back into I couldn't even. I'm having a hard time even making a relationship the a plot like with fun fantasy stuff. Like I can't. I couldn't just. And I'll read it. If one of my friends has written one of those books, I'll read it. I don't have a problem with that, but I cannot write it. I bore myself if I can't like have a weird creature or a magical plot or
Mhm.
fate quite often I love. I just it's got to be something's got to be in there for me. So it's got to have magic of some kind. Yeah.
Um, so with it having magic and all of your worlds having magic, uh, how do you explain magic in your world? Like, how does it work? What are the intricacies of your magic?
Depends on what series and book I'm writing, and it depends on the creature. I mean, different creatures or groups can have magic from a different source or for different reasons.
Hmm.
Like the witches in Dirty Like Dragons, I think I specify. I gave them a title like Witches of the Book of Sisters because the Book of Sisters is the connecting well plot. But anyway, like they specifically everything that they do, their magic can work with their blood and work with it's a whole lot of ingredients and reagents, kind of like we think of witch potions. It's a lot
Hmm.
more like that, a lot more like alchemy maybe. um Other things might either have magic where they get their powers just from within, like just your magical being. You have it. This is your life source. You can use it until you are too exhausted to use any more of it, that kind of thing. My warlocks are particularly fun. I like that everything the warlock does is they've any power they have has been gained through a deal with a demon. So if
Right.
you have the power to teleport, if you have the power to speak another language, it can be deals for anything, but you have made a deal with a demon, a pact with a demon to gain that skill or to borrow that skill for however long that happens, and they will trade anything. Like there is some weird deals going down.
I
But
love
so
that.
I particularly love the warlocks just for the chaos.
Absolutely. Love the chaos. So with your warlocks, you said their patrons are demons, right?
Yes. Um
Uh,
yeah.
so how do your demons work? Are they more um they're just a creature with magic from another realm, or do they have like religious ties? What separates your demons from like our demons?
No religious ties. They just live in another plane called the hellscape. We never see the hellscape, but a warlock can you have to learn or figure out how to summon a specific demon. The covens of warlocks can teach you how to do that. They actually separate themselves into levels, like a level 1 through 9 warlock. So the higher like the level you are means you are more skilled and have more knowledge, and like they're not going to tell a level 1 warlock how to summon this level 9 thing because they're like, you're going to
Right.
kill yourself and everyone around you. um so you learn how to summon or give the demon the ability to appear before you for a short time, and then you can make your deal for whatever they want. It can be something simple for simpler trades or abilities or spells or skills, or it can be something like really advanced and wild. So, the demons themselves, though, there's no religious ties. There's none of that. They just live in the hellscape. They are as varied as I want them to be. I want absolute chaos. Anything is possible if you find the right demon.
I
So
love that. Um, that's also another tagline for you, which is almost anything is capable because of chaos. Like anything can happen because
yeah,
chaos. Love that.
yeah.
Um, with our last 10 minutes, I like to ask one last question before we do outros. Um, is there anything you wanted to talk about that I might not have touched on? Anything you would like to update people about, or like you want people to have interest in?
Oh goodness. Okay, well right now I don't have the ability to do playlists right now, but I have a bunch of videos on my TikTok with a big blue banner at the top that says NaNoWriMo Prep. Anyone who's interested in writing and wants to do the National Novel Month challenge right now, I have a whole bunch of, just go down and find those. They're all numbered, um, kind of helping you prep if you want to somewhat plot and get ready for Nano this year. Go check those out. I think they'd be helpful.
I like it. Um, so as we're getting ready for Nano Month, uh, I guess the last question is before we do outros and who we are and all of that good stuff. Um, as a writer, uh, what would you say your greatest strength is?
My greatest strength as a writer
Yeah,
is, can describing food be it?
yeah,
I
yeah,
can
it can be.
actually I actually think it's my side characters. Um I feel really strongly about developing every character no matter how small their part. I have like just pages of unanswered questions, things that are not going to come to light that I needed to know to write them, but you guys don't need to know for the story to be told. I really like my side characters. I feel like I make an interesting cast that people can care about. So, yeah,
I
I
like
think
that.
I'm okay at that.
I like it. I like all of your side characters, and your strength is your characters' personalities. Everyone feels like a person.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully. That's the goal.
hopefully. I mean, or maybe they feel like a dragon. I just depends on who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So go ahead and reintroduce yourself. What book is out? What book is coming out? Where they can find your stuff, and go.
I'm Sabrina Blackburry. My book, Dirty Lying Fairies, just came out in September, and you can find that at bookstores everywhere now. Book two, Dirty Lying Dragons, comes out next summer at a not yet determined date. You can also find a bunch of my first drafts on Wattpad, if under the same name, Sabrina Blackburry. If you don't mind them being first drafts, there's a whole bunch of free content there, as well as this series, which is in the paid stories program, but there's a bunch of free content on there. Other than that, I'm mostly on TikTok, a little bit on Instagram and Twitter. I
I
think I
like
got it.
that. Excellent. And then, of course, hi, my name is Lizzie Strong. I'm your wonderful host. I am a monster romance author where the monsters are usually spooky, scary, but the romance is cute and cuddly. My latest release, The Caddo's Waitress, is out on Amazon and NKU. If you like Paws, Claws, and Cat Daddy, you will very much enjoy that little sweet slice of heaven. And my next book, Hauntings and Company, comes out on Halloween. If you like boss assistants, tentacle monsters in suits, and warlocks in pumps, you will enjoy this. I also enjoy sending everyone up a roller coaster. I want to thank everyone for coming in and everyone engaging. Thank you all for hanging out with us and laughing along with us and enjoying me and Sabrina eat lollipops for far too long. My mouth feels sticky, and it's not because it was particularly from anything particularly spicy. It was fruit punch flavored. So, uh, on that note, I want to thank everyone here on my channel Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes Saturdays. I will be doing author interviews with all of your favorite authors. They will be up there on my profile underneath my face, and you can see which author I am interviewing up to 30 days out. If you are an author and would like to be interviewed, and unfortunately, if you have 1,000 followers, because TikTok is a butthead, and I can't put you on live if you don't have 1,000, there is an interest form. There's also an ARC reader interest form if you are interested in ARC reading and getting some books for free, as long as you don't mind me making you cry. On that note, did you want to say any final words, Sabrina, before we say adios?
I don't know what else to add other than thanks for being listeners and readers.
Excellent. Well, thank you all, and goodbye.